Hey, what's going on, guys? The Horror Man back with my spoiler-free review of Last Night in Soho. I had the opportunity to watch Last Night in Soho last night. Typically, I film my reviews immediately after the movie's end. In this case, I'm glad I waited, because it allowed me to reflect back on the film for the past 24 hours or so. My initial thoughts on the film were very positive. Last Night in Soho was a very well-made movie. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it is potentially another movie aimed at the quote-unquote woke crowd. Before I get into that, though, here's a brief synopsis without spoilers. An aspiring fashion designer named Eloise is accepted into a posh fashion school in London. She currently lives with her grandmother, ever since her mother committed suicide years prior. Her grandmother is proud of Eloise, but is a bit worried about how London will treat her. Apparently, Eloise's mother did not have a great experience while she was there as a young girl. After just a couple of nights in her dorm, Eloise decides to rent an apartment to live on her own in London. She finds an upstairs apartment for rent in a building owned by a Ms. Collins, played by Diana Rigg in her final performance before her death. Many people probably know her as a Bond girl in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and as Lady Olenna in Game of Thrones. On her first night in her new apartment, Eloise begins having visions and nightmares. I guess they actually start out as dreams, but they get darker and deadlier as time goes on. In her dreams, Eloise sees a girl named Sandy, played by Anya Taylor-Joy. She's probably best known for her role in The Queen's Gambit and The Witch. Not only does Eloise see Sandy in her dreams and visions, but at times she also replaces her, as if they are the same person. It's not long before Eloise even dyes her hair to match Sandy. Her school fashion design project is also inspired by an outfit she sees Sandy wearing in her visions. Fun fact, Eloise is played by actress Thomasin McKenzie. Anya Taylor-Joy's character's name in The Witch is Thomasin. That's not really a common name, so I found that to be an interesting coincidence. Eloise continues to dream of Sandy at night, at times swapping places with her in the visions. It appears that Sandy's timeline is in the mid to late 60s. Interestingly, Eloise loves music from that decade and routinely falls asleep listening to it. Sandy, who is passionate about performing in the 60s, ends up under the control of a pimp named Jack. Life in Soho becomes horrific for the young woman, being passed off from guy to guy. Night after night, the dreams continue for Eloise, as she witnesses night after night of Sandy's life. It all leads up to a nightmare in which Sandy is stabbed to death by Jack in the very same bed where Eloise sleeps. Or, at least, the same room. You'd hope the bed was replaced by then. There is a lot more I could go into with the synopsis, but I'm trying to avoid spoilers, so I won't. Last Night in Soho, to me, is comparable to Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. The third act of both movies is practically a slasher film. And this one actually has quite the body count. I think last night while watching Last Night in Soho, I was distracted by the beautiful visuals. Thomasin McKenzie was great as Eloise, and Anya Taylor-Joy is always a joy to watch. The final act is brutal, and the big reveal is, dare I say, jaw-dropping. Had I reviewed this last night, I'd have nothing but positive things to say. And don't get me wrong, admittedly, even after reflecting on the film, I still really enjoyed it. But it does appear that the main message of the film is this: men are bad. All but one male character in this film are painted as villains. And again, without spoiling anything, that one positive male character is portrayed in a certain way. All of the others have something very obvious in common. Now granted, Last Night in Soho is not Black Christmas 2019. Black Christmas went way overboard with the man-hating agenda. Black Christmas also substituted quality for message, whereas Last Night in Soho is both a quality film with a message. I guess the one good thing I can say about Black Christmas 2019 is, after seeing it, I'm not always immediately aware of the woke messages in other films. The agenda in Black Christmas is so overstated that it never appears as such in other films. So thanks for that, Black Christmas 2019. It does make me wonder though, had I not seen Black Christmas, would the message in Last Night in Soho have been more obvious to me? Because after thinking about it, it does seem pretty damn obvious. Was Edgar Wright trying to appease woke culture with Last Night in Soho? Granted, it's the first movie of his with a female protagonist. The movie was also shelved for a couple of years due to COVID. It was actually completed in 2019. I read that the story was inspired by Don't Look Now and Repulsion, and I can definitely see their influence. Apparently, Last Night in Soho isn't doing as well as expected at the box office. Is that because of the saying, go woke, go broke? A lot of people, it seems, even those who were once receptive to the messaging, are getting tired of the constant lecturing. How many movies in this day and age need to be focused on the same agenda? We get it. It's exhausting in a way. It really is. The difference here is Last Night in Soho is a genuinely well-made film. I can't deny that. I also wonder, too, if it's even possible in modern times to make a movie that doesn't seem like it has an agenda. It's as if we are being conditioned to look for one now. Or are they just always there? Did Edgar Wright intend for Last Night in Soho to be so woke? I do hate that term, woke, by the way. But I'm using it because it's a popular term. Those most awake to me are the ones who oppose the woke agenda. They see what's really going on, without having it spoon-fed to them or shoved down their throats. I don't want this to become a social commentary, so I guess I'll stop here. I do highly recommend checking out Last Night in Soho for yourself, to come up with your own conclusions. If not for any other reason than to see a competent movie. Upon first watching it last night, I would have said I loved it. But after some reflection, I'll say I really liked it. It's definitely one I'll be picking up on Blu-ray when it's released, so I can revisit it again and re-evaluate. Until then, though, I'll fill my time watching movies that are not agenda-driven. After all, I prefer my cinematic experience to be an escape from the real world. Have you seen Last Night in Soho? If so, what do you think of it? Comment below and let me know. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that thumbs up and be kind, subscribe.